Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say that my dad was going to come tonight, but the heat just was not cooperating with him today. So he unfortunately could not be here. So we're going to tell his story. On May 5th, 2011 will be a day that I will never forget, and it would change my life forever. Months before Dad started having symptoms that we would learn were signs of his cancer, he was tired a lot and took a lot of naps and was having pain in his abdomen. My sister Sammy's wedding was for the following June, so us girls were in full gear to lose weight. Dad started eating well when him and my brother were working, and he was losing weight quickly. We all thought he was going to get the award for losing the most weight before the wedding, but indeed it was due to a monster growing inside his body. On May 4, 2011, he was in so much pain in his abdomen, so he went to the doctor and they did an ultrasound. They were thinking it was his gallbladder. They wanted to do a CT, but Dad declined because he didn't have insurance, and it was going to be $3,000. A few weeks prior to this happening, they canceled their Blue Cross Blue Shield because they could not afford to pay for it. The hospital called and said they were going to waive the fee for the test, and they wanted him to come back the next day for the CT scan. I can't even tell you how scared I was to find out what was going on. They had found something on the ultrasound, and they were suspicious that it was cancer. They took us into a little room, and Dad muttered through his tears, "I have cancer." I think we all instantly went numb, and we just cried and cried. Later, they told us he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he was stage 4. The cancer was throughout his body. He started chemo at Marlette and Lapeer. After starting chemo, the cancer was beginning to shrink. On August 21st, 2011, things took a turn for the worst. We got a phone call from my stepmom saying she was taking Dad to Lapeer because he was in extreme pain. The next day, they were making arrangements to transfer him to U of M. We were told a week prior to this that the mass in his abdomen had shrunk, and now they were telling us it had tripled in size in 1 week. And we refused to believe it. We didn't understand what was going on. We didn't want to hear what they were saying. They got him admitted to U of M, and a team of doctors had discovered his cancer had turned into an aggressive, large B, diffuse lymphoma. The mass in his abdomen, we later learned, was the size of a basketball. After months of chemo on November 14th, we were given the news that we wanted to hear: the cancer is gone. They did tell us Dad would need a bone marrow transplant to ensure the cancer would not come back. My dad's brothers and sisters, his kids, were tested to see if we matched, and there was not a close enough match. They went to the National Bone Marrow Registry in hopes of finding a match. I remember the day we were down there, they had found 2 matches. It was great news. Our prayers had been answered. They said he was pretty lucky considering his type of cancer. So now we have to prepare for this life-changing event. They briefly explained they would have to bring him in, wipe out all his levels, and give him the new cells. The chemo started and it was horrible. He did experience some mouth sores. Dad was lucky, and I do believe a lot stronger than he thought. He didn't have a lot of side effects you hear of. On December 15th, 2011, he was given his 2nd birthday with his transplant. Sarah was able to be there with him, and it was an exciting day. The whole process took only about 20 minutes. 20 minutes of an entire lifetime in a bag that was going to give him life again. Sometimes I sit and look at him and all that he has been through, and all the meds he has taken, and so proud of him for what he has done and how far he has come. Dad was in the hospital till the end of December. Between us kids, family, and friends, we spent every week in Ann Arbor for 3 months. It was a routine for us to be down there. On January 30th, we got great news from the doctor that his PET scan showed all cancer cells were gone and the transplant was working. At this point, he was 46 days post-transplant and right on track. It's amazing knowing that a donor saved his life. February was okay. He was going to doctor's appointments weekly. He had some bumps in the road, but we just took one day at a time. The end of February came and another worse nightmare happened. We were all down there for the weekend, and we could tell he did not feel good at all. Something was off. My stepmom took his temp and he had a fever, and that meant she had to call the doctor and had to go to ER right away. They really couldn't do anything till morning, but we're hoping to get his fevers under control. My stepmom wanted to go back to the hotel because my little brother was there, and Dad said, "I don't need anyone to stay with me." but I looked at him and said, I will stay. He thanked me later and said, thanks for watching over me. Dad had several caregivers throughout this process. That's all he ever wanted throughout this whole thing, is someone to watch over him, and it was my turn. We talked some and couldn't believe that this was happening, and it just wasn't right. They controlled his fevers for the night, his red blood count was going down daily, and they were giving him blood to sustain him. We really didn't understand what was about to happen. They came in and talked with him, and they really couldn't explain the fevers. It could be infection, the blood, the transfusions, or the lymphoma was back, which was something we didn't want to hear. The next several days, they fought fevers that were horrible and unimaginable. Dad called me a week prior to this, and there was an abnormal blood smear, and they were going to do a bone marrow biopsy to see what was going on. On that Tuesday, after we had all been down there for the weekend, Dad called me crying and saying the cancer was back, 98% in his bone marrow, and they needed me, and they didn't know how much time he had had. I couldn't believe he was telling me this. My dad was telling me that his time was limited. I don't remember a lot from that week, just it was complete shock. Later that week, we went to Ann Arbor. When we got there, we didn't know what we would be walking into. We got there, and Dad and Michelle were sitting on the bed, hugging and crying. We just held each other and cried a lot. He said he was glad he had us when he was young and proud of us. I told him how much I loved him, and this was not his fault. He didn't know where to start or how to decide on anything, with knowing he could go at any time. Sarah and I agreed we would talk about good times and try not to obsess about the news we were given. We had talked the night before about moving my sister Sammy's wedding up to that Saturday, which was 2 days. She couldn't get married without her dad. My mom, bless her heart, with the help of family and friends, called everyone and got it organized, and the whole wedding from June 16th was moved to March 3rd. Sarah and I ran to the mall to get Dad a suit for the wedding. It was a sick feeling because at the same time we were planning his funeral, thinking he would wear the suit for the wedding and also for his own funeral. They were having a meeting for him, and he said to Sarah and I, we needed to decide who was going. Sarah said, you are going. My Aunt Dolores did drive down and came with us. It was nice to have her there. Dad insisted he get cleaned up and shaved for this meeting. He put his jeans, his shirt, and his work boots on. I kind of felt like we were going to his execution, walking down the hallway. He was being sent home on hospice. They said his blood levels were going down daily, and the only thing keeping him alive was giving him blood transfusions. I was proud of my dad that day. He spoke quietly, but thanked the doctors for what they had done for him. He mentioned family numerous times. He told about how he loved his family and how he was raised, and just thanked them. He wanted to go home. As we walked out, Dad hugged them, and most of them were crying. Dad requested a priest come in and give him his last rites. There no more priest was sick, and Dad was too much of a risk still being around anyone who was sick. The one doctor has a friend who is a priest, and she called him and asked him to come see Dad and Michelle. Dad said they were surprised when this young priest showed up. Dad said they sat and talked a while, and they silently prayed, and he silently prayed over them with the laying of the hands. The priest had told a story about a man he prayed for with stage 4 lung cancer. And after that, he found out the man had been cured and the cancer was gone. My little brother Darren said this guy was like it was God talking. They sat quietly, and Michelle said Dad's head was off the bed, and the priest prayed, and my dad's body went limp. She was scared, but Dad said he felt something happen to his body at that point. He said the experience was none they had ever experienced, and it was nice for the three of them to have this moment. He was so excited he was going to get to walk Sammy down the aisle. He couldn't believe it. Family and friends spent Friday calling, texting, emailing our friends and family that were invited to Sammy's wedding. We had a great amount of support and the help that was offered. The next day, we got his room packed up and we left Ann Arbor at noon. On Friday, March 2nd, Dad, my little brother Darren, and my stepmom Michelle went in the car, and they all sat in the front seat, and the song that came on the radio was "Mama, I'm Coming Home," and he was. Dad rested the day so he would be okay for Saturday. They gave him blood on Friday to boost him up, but couldn't guarantee how long it would last. The next day would be a wedding for my sister. I think we all did well keeping it together, but knew why we were all there. Dad asked my brother Tommy to walk him down behind the aisle, because he was unsteady walking. The doors opened, and there was Dad walking Sammy down the aisle. We all cried and felt overwhelmed. The church was full of family and friends. He got to walk his baby down the aisle, and that's all that mattered. My sister Sammy and her husband Ted had a beautiful ceremony. Dad did well that night, which we all watched with a careful eye, but people gave him his space. He did make it to talk to a lot of people. People were there to say goodbye. Sick to think about, but it was the truth. I sobbed when they had the father-daughter dance. I couldn't control it as he wiped away her tears. It was so unreal. He danced all night and was there until midnight. People were lingering because they didn't want to leave. I was worried that night he was scared and it was going to happen. He was going to have his last hurrah. My stepmom Michelle said she checked him every 15 minutes that night. He felt good the next day. We all stayed the week with him and other family members. We had a meeting with hospice and we were insisting that Dad get a second opinion. At first we weren't considering Dad's feelings because we didn't want him to die and we wanted to save him. Each time hospice came, his blood pressure and oxygen were good. Dad did tell us how he felt. He said he was sent home for a reason and the end could be near. We just needed to accept it and let it happen. And we understood this once he said this to us. We didn't want to hear it, but we had no choice. We were just going to enjoy the time we had left with him. After 12 days, and he was still alive, Dad would say, I don't even know where to start to figure things out because there is so much. He would say, yeah, he was mad. Yes, he wanted to go to heaven, but not right now. We all had many talks about life. Our family has always been close, so it's not a situation where something had to be said before that person died. My stepmom called the social worker at U of M on Wednesday, and she was shocked and wanted to see him the next morning. We got up early and went down. The doctors were amazed, and the doctor was pacing, saying, I can't believe it. They had no explanation as to what was happening. He had not had a blood transfusion in 12 days, and his levels came up on their own. March 16th, we were told that the transplant was now working backwards. The transplant was supposed to prevent the cancer from coming back, and now it was starting to fight the cancer that had taken over the bone marrow yet again. Coming home saved his life. Over the next few weeks, he would make improvements with his levels. On April 26, 2012, Dad called and said the cancer is gone. We've experienced every kind of good, sad, happy emotion out there. There's a big hero in my life, and that is my dad. Doctors are still happy with his progress, and his blood levels and all levels are still coming up slowly. Dad has a long road ahead, but from the grim news we were given on March 1st, it's just amazing. It's just an amazing turnaround. We've had so much help from our family, friends, and community, it's unbelievable. He was here to see his wedding anniversary on June 1st, my brother's 8th grade graduation, and we celebrated his birthday on June 6th. He made it to June 16th, which was my sister's original wedding date. He has a lot to live for. I love him so much. He's made me so proud at how hard he has fought. He has weekly lab work done, and we are constantly watching his levels, but things seem to be headed in the right direction. We are cautiously optimistic, and a bone marrow biopsy a few weeks ago revealed the cancer is still gone. We take each day at a time, and no more than that, and we are grateful for each day. This week, his blood tests revealed his platelets doubled, and there's evidence of new bone marrow growing. I would like to thank my stepmom Michelle for taking good care of our dad 24/7. I'm not sure what we would do without her. Myself, Sarah, and other siblings have all been caregivers for my dad. Our lives have changed, but I wouldn't want it any other way. God has a plan, and we just have to have faith, and he will see us through. I just want to say thank you for everyone here, the survivors and their families, and also to the American Cancer Society for everything that they do. None of this would be possible without anyone here. To conclude our story, we have a couple little hints on how to get through this journey called life. Taking one day at a time is mandatory. Yes, the sleepless nights before a lab or scan were horrible, but we got through it. It's okay to cry or be mad. Get it out and you'll feel better. Stay strong for your loved ones. It helps them more than you know. Being a caregiver is a full-time job that is never done. So take care of yourself too, and one day you will be rewarded. Hold and hug your loved ones as much as you can. The power of touch helps with healing. Smile through the tears and laugh as much as you can. Don't lose faith or hope. Each day is a blessing. Cherish them. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You would be amazed at how many people will help you. Thank your doctors, nurses, office staff, and anyone else that is caring for you or your loved one. They are there because they care about what they are doing. Keep your family close. We all lean on each other for support. And last but not least, no one fights alone. I applaud all of you cancer warriors who are fighting now or have beaten this thing called cancer. Keep fighting and just know you're never alone. And thank you for listening to our story, and we hope to give you hope.